All right, let's crack the code on asthma. We're going to focus on the absolute essential logic you need to master for your exams, from nailing the diagnosis to making those critical life or death clinical calls. So let's start with the single most important concept, the one thing that everything else is built on.
So, at its heart, asthma is basically an inflammatory firestorm going on inside your airways, your bronchial tubes. It makes those pipes spasm and get super narrow. But here is the secret, the absolute key that unlocks everything. This process is reversible.
And this idea of reversibility, it is the absolute cornerstone of an asthma diagnosis. See, unlike other diseases that cause permanent lung damage, the airway narrowing in asthma can actually be reversed with the right treatment. And that is how we identify it.
So, how do we prove it? How do we catch it in the act? Well, we use spirometry to measure something called FEV1. That's just the amount of air you can force out of your lungs in 1 second. Now, if we give a patient a bronchodilator, something to open up those airways, and their FEV1 jumps up by more than 12% and by more than 200 milliliters, boom, that's your diagnosis, logic gate passed. Okay, real quick, gotta do the official bit here. This content is for educational purposes, specifically for medical exams. It is absolutely not medical advice. For any real-life clinical decisions, you always consult the official guidelines and a specialist. All right, let's get back to it.
Now, for our first clinical trap, this is a big one. I want you to picture a patient in the middle of a severe asthma attack. They're breathing super fast, and their first blood gas shows a low carbon dioxide level, which is exactly what you'd expect. But then, an hour later, you repeat the test, and their CO2 is now 40, totally normal. The intern is relieved, thinking the patient is getting better, but are they? And that brings us to the crucial life or death question. Is that normal PCO2 a sign of recovery, or is it a sign of impending doom? You know, this is such a classic trap on exams. In a severe asthma attack, the patient is breathing so fast, they're hyperventilating, right? So they should be blowing off CO2, driving their levels down. If that CO2 starts to climb back up to normal, that's not a good sign. It's a huge red flag that the respiratory muscles are getting exhausted. They're tiring out, and they are about to crash.
So for your exams, I want you to burn this into your brain. A normalizing CO2 in a severe asthma attack means respiratory failure is right around the corner. In this very specific high-stakes scenario, normal is the new deadly. So what's the next best step? It is not to just give them more bronchodilators. No. The correct answer is you need to prepare for intubation now. You have to recognize the failures coming and secure that airway before it's too late. Okay, trap number 2. This one is way more subtle. We're talking about the hidden threat. This is the patient who just has this nagging chronic cough, but otherwise they seem totally fine. So if the only thing your patient complains about is this cough that won't go away, and you do this standard lung function tests and they come back normal, how do you find that hidden fire? How do you diagnose the problem? The wrong step here is to just reassure them or to randomly try a bronchodilator. You'll probably miss the diagnosis completely. The right step, the smart step, is provocation. You have to safely and controllably provoke the airways to unmask the hidden asthma. And the specific tool for this job is the Methacholine challenge. Basically, the patient inhales a substance called methacholine, which is known to cause airway spasm in people with asthma. If their FEV1 drops by 20% or more, that's it. You've unmasked the asthma. Diagnosis confirmed. And speaking of best practices, we have to talk about a massive protocol shift from the GINA 2024 guidelines. This has literally changed how we approach rescue therapy for asthma. This is huge. For decades, the go-to rescue inhaler was a SABA-only medication, like albuterol. Well, according to the new guidelines, that approach is outdated. It's no longer the recommended first move. The new way of thinking is all about a dual-action treatment. The idea is that every single time a patient reaches for their rescue inhaler, that puff should also deliver an inhaled corticosteroid, or ICS. Why? Because you're not just treating the immediate spasm, you're also stamping out the underlying inflammation, the fire that's causing the problem in the first place. Okay, let's do a final logic lock. We're going to run through these key concepts rapid fire to make sure they stick. Ready? The diagnostic jump for asthma, FEV1 increase of more than 12% and 200 milliliters.
A normal CO2 during a severe attack means impending respiratory failure. Okay, what about an absence of wheezing, a silent chest? That is a massive emergency. It's critical you know this. It means so little air is moving through the airways that it can't even generate a sound. The obstruction is almost complete. And finally, the preferred GINA 2024 rescue therapy, a low-dose inhaled corticosteroid combined with formoterol. And don't you dare forget the classic aspirin-exacerbated respiratory disease triad. You'll see this on exams for sure. It's the combination of asthma, nasal polyps, and a severe sensitivity to aspirin or other NSAIDs. And there you have it. Logic sealed. So we've totally stabilized the airway storms. We've mastered the logic of reversible disease. But what happens when the damage isn't reversible? What happens when those pipes are permanently damaged? Well, that's when we cross over into the world of COPD. If you want to master the logic for conditions like COPD and chronic bronchitis, make sure you watch our next explainer in this series. Thanks for tuning in.